talking about is licking toads to get high. Now, for years, various Indians of Central America have ingested the hallucinogenic secretions of toads, but that practice, according to the Drug Enforcement Administration, is against the law. At first glance, the toad does not look like a criminal.
Lick the toad, lick the toad, lick the toad, lick the toad.
They call him Narco Toad. On the street, he's also known by his alias, Bufo Marinus. He and his cousin, Bufo Alvarius, are dangerous dudes. They deal in a mind-scrambling substance that defends against intruders. It all comes from a little gland behind the toad's head.
When bitten, the toad secretes a milky white fluid from its parotoid glands that can poison its attacker, making them extremely ill and sometimes causing cardiac arrest.
Watch whatever crap comes on next. Coming up next!
Live from the Hive.
The organization took to their Facebook page last week to caution visitors not to lick the Sonoran desert toad. Don't lick it. If you're wondering why anyone would want to do that, well, let's explain. Apparently, this particular species of toad secretes a psychedelic toxin that leads to hallucinations if ingested, but can also make humans really sick, leaving people incapacitated for up to 30 minutes. Well, the NPS didn't say if a particular incident prompted their public service announcement, but a recent report from the New York Times says there has been an increased demand for the poison recently. Perhaps that's the reason the Park Service felt it necessary to remind visitors not to lick toads.
Ew, gross, man. You okay?
Whoa, everything's so significant. Dude, you gotta try this.
Not even. It's got your germs on it.
Not this end.
Oh, I can see the air. And you know what else?
The hallucinogenic compound of bufotoxin sometimes do create a feeling of airiness or flying and things like that, and we believe that the witches flying around on broomsticks is probably due to the toad component of the witch's brew.
While the psychedelic bufotine has been detected in dozens of toad species, Bufo alvarius is the only amphibian known to biosynthesize its O-methyl homolog, 5-MeO-DMT. The toad's neck and limbs carry numerous protuberant glands marked by pores through which venom is excreted from subcutaneous lobules that contain the enzyme responsible for biosynthetic conversion of bufotenine to 5-MeO-DMT, in addition to the production of other tryptamines and cardiotoxic steroids.
Ooh, check it out, man. The licking toad. Yeah, licking toad, man. Lick the toad.
The National Park Service says if you see a toad in the wild, keep your tongue in your mouth.
That substance is bitter and foul tasting. It blocks nerve transmission. It can affect the heart. It also can get you high.
Nothing. Here we go. Yeah.
Homer?
Huh?
These are crystallized secretions from a toad. A substance like this killed 4 people in Australia last year. In fact, possessing the secretion with intent to use it to get high is a federal offense.
In order to do any legal action against a person, we'd have to prove drug intent, that you, like conspiracy to lick a toad or conspiracy to sell a toad to lick or something of that sort.
Anything yet?
Are you sure you're licking right?
Yeah.
I don't get it. It's supposed to pack an awesome buzz.
If you want to get one of these toads, forget it. The zoo tells us that Bufo marinus is restricted in California. The toad has been introduced in places like Florida, and it's done a lot of damage there. It's also a potentially dangerous toad, and certainly one you would never want to lick. Sylvia?
Never.
Ever? Ever?
No.
Okay, thanks.
Hello and welcome. Godless Granny is about a lot of things. I talk about any issue that affects me or on which I have strong opinions. Most frequently, that's religious issues, women's issues, transgender issues, and political issues. I believe in social justice and equality for all. I feel that everyone has a right to believe what they want, but that right doesn't absolve you of criticism of your beliefs. Thus, I criticize both outlying religious ideas and mainstream ideology. I welcome theists to discuss or debate their issues with me live on stream. Contact me on Twitter if you'd like to do that. I was a Christian for 42 years. In my last decade as a believer, I became increasingly liberal, seeing that as being more consistent with biblical ideas. But eventually, the cognitive dissonance between liberal thought and certain parts of the Bible brought me to evolve my theology. I still hung on to the inerrancy of the Bible and continued to look for ways to interpret the Bible to fit reality. But when it was proven to me that the biblical flood did not happen, thank you Aaron Ra, Vice Rhino, and Pelagia, there was no longer anywhere to go. I had to let go of inerrancy. But without the Bible, my faith had no foundation, and then I left the faith. I have since met people of faith who reject inerrancy. I find this a more honest faith, but I also find it a purely human construct. Why believe in a God if you have to make up the God and what the God is all about? I now criticize the very religious beliefs that I held for decades, as I now realize that they not only do not originate from a God that loves me, but that they were dangerous in that they limited me. They limited me as a person by discouraging thought and learning. It restricted my relationships and my ability to develop myself as a person. I hope to do several things here. I hope to reach others of my generation, as we are the primary people that are still holding on to this outdated ideology. Second, I hope to reach the younger generation, imploring them not to follow in my footsteps. And third, I hope to show how the younger generation who has already left the faith can reach their parents. What arguments did I find convincing that will likely convince their parents? So come on in, let's have a chat.
Good morning, my beauties and bees. We are live from the Hive, and actually, give me just a second. I'm going to pop back off because my camera's all messed up. I have to reset it. When I bump the desk, it gets blurry. I'll be right back, and we'll just do the intro over again. Hang in there just a second. Yeah. This is just annoying. I'll be right back with you. All right, that looks good. The app I use, I like the way that it kind of auto focuses, but I don't like that if I bump the desk but it stopped. Some of the features I liked about it aren't being updated anymore, so I might switch which camera app I use. I don't like just using my regular camera app. It doesn't have enough features. I can't do the blur boxes and all that good stuff that I like to do when I'm elsewhere. But hello. Welcome to Live from the Hive. It's Saturday morning. Thank you all for showing up and tuning in for the show. I appreciate each and every one of you. I hope you liked my new intro toggle. It's a little longer than my usual ones that are about a minute and a half, but I am totally fascinated by natural hallucinogenic chemicals and compounds. They fascinate me, and I like learning about them. I like learning about different fungus and mushrooms and plants and animals that produce toxins that cause these effects. They interest me. I was looking at mad honey just recently, but anyway, as far as that, some of the questions that I got asked, there was about the toads here, and I will answer some questions real quick about them. I am not excuse me, I am not pro licking toads. Don't go out and pick up a wild toad and lick it. Don't do that. But there are certain ways to consume the toxins produced by toads. If you want to know what that experience is like, and I believe the preferred method is an inhalation as opposed to you like vaporize it. and inhale it, it would be the preferred method of consumption, because that way you're not getting a lot of other qualities from it. I think they crystallize them first, and then you're able to just inhale the crystal. He didn't inhale it. I'm not teaching people how to lick toads here. I'm not an anti-toad licker either. You do what you want with your own body, but I think that disturbing wildlife to salivate all over it is weird. I think it's intrusive. You're also making the toad use its natural defensive properties to that also depends on if it's a captive toad. Like, if you're gonna lick a toad, lick your own toad that you're taking care of and making sure that it's being fed and doesn't have to isn't wasting all its poison on you, that it would need to defend itself from predators and things like that. And cane toads, Bufo marinus, they are not native to North America, so don't have those outside at all. How about that? Licking toes. And Ryan, the ad thing I was talking about, that is, it doesn't have to be an actual ad, just a short clip from your channel, from your Twitter, or from your TikTok feed, whatever you think best represents you, or your funniest or cutest or whatever video, and I'll put it into my ad section so it can play, and then I'll add a link to your TikTok or your YouTube channel to the list. I'm trying to create a network of support that I advertise for everybody, and it gives me, like I said, time to do my intermissions, potty breaks, and all that good stuff. So thank you so much, everybody who has contributed an ad. Anybody else, Big Zebra, if you want me to run an ad for bigzebra.com on here, I can. Send me. They don't have to be a video either. You can, if it's a still ad, I can put it up, but you'll have 30 seconds of screen time, but it'll bump off of other people's ads. So multiple stills. I'll probably make a slideshow out of them for display and pick a. So yeah, any way you all want to go, send me ads to anything that you as part of this community are doing, whether you have an Etsy shop, whether you have an event coming up. I'll advertise your event. A show. You want to send me an ad for a show with a thumbnail, I can put that up on a slide. Just let me know, and I will and I'll be happy to accommodate. I'm trying to build a community here. I don't want my hive. My hive can't just survive by itself. It needs all this community stuff. And the final piece of housekeeping before we move into everybody's favorite segment, Cryptic Corner. Before we move into that, I just want to say that I am the new co-host for the Sunny Spot with Sunny Shell on Skeptic Haven. So I've kind of joined that community over there, and I'm excited to be working with them. I'll also be filling in here and there for other hosts, and I'll be filling in fully when Sunny's out. I'll be covering her show, and it's every Thursday night. I think it's at 7:30. 7 or 7:30. I'll have to get back to you about that time. I should probably know that, right? So that's housekeeping for this morning. So look for all that going on, and be careful out there squeezing them toads, ladies and gentlemen, and everything in between. You are seen. All right. Let me tell you, Cryptic Corner is gonna get a little weird, little mystical. So I'll see you guys over there, okay? Hello, hello, my beauties and bees, and welcome to Cryptic Corner tonight. Where you're watching it is not, but where we're watching live from the Hive this Saturday morning is the day after St. Patrick's Day. And every March, I like to revisit the fairies and see how they're holding up. Well, it'll always be something new, but it's going to be a revisit of some the same concepts, of course. Today, I managed to get 2 out of 3 of the segments to be completely fairy related. So, kudos on both. Obviously, Cryptic Corner is always going to have fairy content available. I actually had a multiple choice options of which type of fairy content I wanted to cover on Cryptic Corner today. I had to choose between 3 different fairy related topics. So, there will be more fairies to come. Obviously, I'm going to save some of these fairy topics for next March as well. But, you know, I don't only restrict it to that season. And some fairies are related to other seasons as well, including the infamous Kate Shee, which is the Scottish and Irish, the cat spirit. And I will do want to talk about them. I think that might wait till October, though. But that's some fairy stuff we got going on. There's obviously different fairies associated with each season. There's seasonal fairies that we can dig into and try to parse the lore and the reality. Because despite what you might see in the mainstream, there are a lot of people who still believe in fairies or have pagan practices that are fairy driven, and we'll see that later on here in the show as well over in CreationWatch. So if you're watching this on Cryptic Corner, I believe that will be, and I'm going to get it wrong because my schedule's all over the place, but that will be released like the week after. So next Wednesday, tune in for that on CreationWatch if you're interested in more of the fairy topic like this. Okay, so let's get started. First and foremost, I just want to play this old classic and see if I can't get a strike for it. I don't know if I will or not, but if I do, I'll just cut it out and republish the Life in Hive. I don't ever do anything with. I'll just cut it out. It'll be fine if it gets a hit. I just like to share it because it's cute and funny and it's just cultural, I guess. I love it. So. Here's an old classic St. Patrick's Day news report.
Well, just in time for St. Patrick's Day, crowds are coming by the dozens to get an up-close view at what's up.
Hold on, you guys can't hear it. Let me see, because since I got these headphones, the OBS doesn't like to recognize them when I turn them off and turn them back on again while it's running. So I had them on the charger because I do my show here and then I got another thing to do with, I'm going to be on garden while I'm messing with this. I'm going to be on the garden show. Hold on, let me drop that in here too. There you go. Check that out. That's the channel I'm going to be on after Live from the Hive today. Why are you doing this to me? I did this last weekend too. I don't know if I need to just update it or I just need to stop doing that. I probably just need to stop doing that. Are my headphones even... There we go. I had to turn them back off and turn them on again. What a silly morning I'm having. I got all my new, I got new videos in between everything. I spent a lot of time editing this week. Editing is therapeutic for my brain. So, is it picking it up now? Let me see. All right. I mean, this is a classic, right? You all remember this. This is a good laugh. All these people had fun, really a lot of fun with this idea. I think she's my favorite one. It's like, yeah, probably some crackhead. Yes, that's a real possibility if it was a person. This is such a classic. Then gets to the leprechaun hunter guy, and she's like, yeah, I'm gonna be on the news. I'm gonna put up, I'll get my camo and my flute. And I'm gonna be on the news as a leprechaun hunt. The gold. I don't blame him. Yeah, there's a pot of gold up under that tree, I think, and it's whose property is it? Yeah, let's do it.
I want to go.
This is Brian.
I think you can do that without disturbing the tree, though. Let's use like a metal detector first. Let's be careful about this. Don't just go tearing down the tree.
Well, just in time for St. Patrick's Day, crowds are coming by the dozen.
It's gonna loop. All right, yeah. So that was that. I didn't get my stream ganked, so I'll call that a win. All right, so the next thing I want to talk about on the docket today is this thing. It's the Merlin Cryptid Museum, right? So this is bizarre, and we're gonna dig in. Are you guys ready? This gets weird. All right. They even have a Mothman. Do you guys want to? Where do you guys want to start? Oh my gosh, there's so many to pick from. There's vampire. We need fairies though. Let's start with anything labeled fairies. Here's a true fae. You want to have a look at the true fae? Let's see. Homo minimus elatus, biped carnivore. It's a carnivore. And it looks, I guess, is this British people? What is this coin? Please, British people. I see what looks like evidence of taxidermy, of course. Not to be unexpected. So, for those of you who don't know, I am a insect taxidermist. That's one of the things that I do and that I enjoy. So, looking at these, I'm not I'm by no means an expert. I am an amateur. But I shop the shops, and I know the tools and equipment. I know the adhesives that are used. So there's quite a few things that I can decipher about this. But I'm interested in how wide these ribs are for something that's supposed to be able to fly. These wings, assuming that they're scaled, because they are scaled, those are definitely butterfly wings. A 2p, a pound, a sterling, and that's the only British monetary name I know. It looks like a 10p. Okay, thanks guys. How big is a 2p? It's a 2p? Okay. Godseed says 2p. How do you say your name, AR? Can I just call you AR? I see you in here all the time, and I don't mean to avoid saying hi to you. I just don't know how to say hi to you. So you tell me how to say hi. It's a 2p. Okay. So anyway, assuming these are butterfly wings, this organism is going to be too heavy to be held aloft by these without like fairy magic, of course, which I guess we're assuming is a thing here. We're going to read about them too, but I want to look at the pictures first. If this is bone, it's if. I'm assuming, speculating, some of these might be bird bones. Like the thigh bone. Looks very avian to me. I also think some of them might be mouse bones, though. I think the skull is completely synthetic, though. I'm really looking at the skull, but I don't know. That bottom jaw looks pretty unique for something that's like pre-molded or pre-cast. But this, I'm assuming there's an artist behind this. Let's look to the next angle and see if it gives us any clues. So, yeah, giving it the Alyoshenka treatment here, which is, if you haven't seen Alyoshenka's, the Russian, I mean, this is basically one of these, presumably, but I think the Alyoshenka is made from, there is a human fetus involved with that, whereas these are fabricated by an artist, I believe. The moth wings are not going to be identifiable. Unfortunately, we won't be able to tell much from them. Looks like they've been treated. They've been bleached and stained and maybe painted, but definitely bleached and stained to make them all monochrome like this is something really old. We don't get a very good look at the skull in any of these angles that I've seen so far. Yeah, no good look at the skull, but let's read what they have to say about Homo minimus elatus. Okay. Oh, there's some more pictures down here. Good. We'll look at those in a second. And it does have a close look at the skull. This looks like a different specimen though. And then we go back to our list. Okay, but let's read about it. It's only a little short section here. The common fairy, or true fae, form hives in woodland areas. Fairy construction is based on a saliva secretion mixed with leaf litter. Whoa. And form larvae oval structures with a funnel opening at the base. These can be found within rotting trees and subterranean cavities. Some fairy species form mounds similar to ants. Fairies are a caste society, with the lowest being gatherers, followed by slightly larger individuals who act as guardians of the nest. They, like almost all species of fae, are matriarchal. Fairies share. They keep saying fairy, and I in the U.S. the plural of fairy is fairies. I know in the U.K. the plural of fairy is fairy. Fairies share a Fairies share a genetic lineage with homunculi in regards to pheromone glands, which are used as a form of a basic communication. In the Middle Ages, this was harvested by humans as it was found to have psychotropic effects when consumed. This is the origins of the fairy dust mythology. So they put a whole ecology here. What they're giving them is it's almost like a, very hymenopteron-like ecology, which is neat. Like, they're kind of like ground bees, I guess. But homunculi is something that we've talked about before on the show, right? Homunculi are not just a fairy. They're made from, injecting semen into an egg and burying it under the dung pile, right? We've done that. We covered that. Injecting your seed. I remember that being quite the talking point. Let's see here. The artist puts his name on it, and that's funny because he's going to claim that these are found, not created. So, there's a closer look at the skull, but I think we get an even closer look. Yes, here we go. Now this one's skull looks very Very human-like. Why didn't he give it antennae? The ribs on this one are different too. They're less like rodent ribs. Less like bird ribs too. They're more like marmoset ribs. Did you make this out of a marmoset, my dude? I thought the eyes looked too small, but let me see something. I don't know. No, the eyes are too small. Nope. False alarm. I was... The ribs are what threw me, but even looking at the ribs of a marmoset now, I don't think that the ribs match. Okay, anyway. And yeah, these are just more butterfly wings, and you can see here where they're fused, which is the same fusion they're using for all the joints. This mucky brown material to make it look like they're mummified. Yeah, I like that they have a Mothman. I'll look at that in a second, but let's look at the categories for a second. So first we have the vampire stuff, Homo vampirus. We got Mothman, borrowers, and the life cycle of the fairies. Okay, and then you have Draco Magnus, which I guess is a dragon. Cool. Vampire anatomical research case. An infectee. I guess that's like a lycanthropy thing. Look at that. I guess that's a werewolf, huh? You got complete Draco Alta skeleton, which looks like maybe they started with a bone clone of a theropod. And like added bat wings and stuff to it. Really cool. Ichthyosapien fish people. Is that a mermaid I see? Eldritch Study Bureau. Looks like a Cthulhu type thing. Lycanthrope research. Draco research receptacle. Infant dragon. Symbiotic hominids. Is that like a vampire too? Memento mori. Preserved infant lycanthrope. So there's a baby werewolf. Aw. Forest child. Wyvern. Nosferatu. See, it's got the little mouse fangs like Nosferatu does. You got the Yanni Maya artifact. That looks like a alien. So we got some aliens up in here. Little devil dude, another lycanthrope. Athenian mummified vampire child. The succubi. Look how the succubi's mouth opens. How is this thing supposed to seduce anybody? No, tell me. That comes through my window at night and says, hey, want to get it on? I'm saying no. No, ugly predator-mouthed thing. I don't want to fuck you. You're ugly. I'm just saying. How is this a seductress? How is this thing seducing anybody? I mean, come on. Come on, people. Mummified wings. As far as selling this, you might be able to do some is like art pieces, but trying to convince people they're real is ridiculous. But yes, the succubus. Oh wow, it only had like a little 2-paragraph blurb on fairies, and it has like a small novel on succubus. tell me how that thing seduces people. But we're not here to talk about succubuses today. We're here to talk about fairies. So I just wanted to see, pulling that up, how that thing was supposed to seduce anybody at all. Who is going to be like, oh, I want to get me some of that, what they are is like mandibles, which is something that insects and like it's what a mantis has, which are cute when they're little tiny like that, but you make them huge and put they wouldn't even be fangs because mandibles don't have fangs. They have, they're just chitin barbs, basically. Chitin barbs that crush and mash their food. So that also would be unsightly. And, they get, obviously, they can keep them clean. Anyway, so what are we going to do next? We got fairies on the docket. So as far as fairies go, we got elves, gnomes. Oh, homunculi are goblins in this world. Okay. True fae we already looked at. Nymphs, dryads, and elves are fairies. The monarch and her folly. I guess those look like fairies to me. A warrior fairy. A flintlock crucifix. Hell yeah. Look at that. Does that work on fairies? I would just watch a show that these props come from. A triceratops, like what the hell? It's just a triceratops in here. Feathered dinosaur. Oh, I got a demon. You might come back here and do like dragons sometime too, or mythical beast. Lycanthrope head. Necrotic manuscript. Expedition to the Elder City. Miniature wraith hunting case. Badass! Look at that! What is Wonderland? Alright, let's go back up and start with gnomes, because we looked at the little winged fairies. There's a tooth fairy on here too, so gotta hit that bitch up. There we go. Here we are. Okay. Homo minimus dentata. Tooth fairy. Yeah, Homo minimus, I guess, is the word they're using for for the winged little fae. This one's kind of freaky looking. It's got little mantis arms. Look at that. Mantis arms. I can't look enough toads to make me think this crap is real. I wish they would have put wings on the Triceratops. Yeah, we'll look at that in just a second. Let me just, I don't want to read all this though. Let me just see what it says. There are two distinct species of Homo minimus or fairy, which although share a classification, Homo minimus means human mimic. Oh, Homo mimus. I guess I don't know why I was saying minimus. It's Homo mimus, like like human mime. Okay. Evolved from entirely different species. One is a form of insect with a chitinous exoskeleton armor. The other is a form of mammal, complete with endoskeleton and traits which have bizarrely similar yet miniature anatomical similarities that of humans and other apes. What the actual... No, that's not how this works. This would be convergent evolution. They wouldn't be in the same genus. They would not be together under... Alex is his name. Alex, we need to talk about this. I need to help you with your taxonomy. So, is there a way to contact you? Because they wouldn't even be... one would be an arthropod and one would be a mammal, so they would not be in the same genus, and you can't give both genuses that same name. You can't name them both Homo minimus. If one's an arthropod, or Homo mimus, I'm sorry. Yeah, you could change one of them to Homo minimus, though. That's what I would do if I were you. I would change the name of... Let me reclassify some of this stuff for you. That's what I'll spend the rest of the show doing. So, if... Let's say we decided to name that this was something we decided to name before the true fairy. So this is the original, right? This is the OG. So this one can be Homo mimus. What was the follow-up name? Elatus. I'm not sure. And this should be this shouldn't have a capital A on it either if we're classifying organisms. It says it's a carnivore. Does that mean it's in carnivora? Or is it a hominid? And if it's a hominid, where do the wings... Because it doesn't seem like it's a hominid. To me, it seems like it is a... That it is... I mean, the wings are what throw me. There's more of them with wings, though. So let's see how they're classifying these ones. Here's another one, arthropodus. Homo mimus arthropodus, horse fairy. Bipedal arthropod carnivore. Okay. The horse fairy is part of the Homo minimu arthropod family. Arthropodus family. Yeah, it stands 6 inches. Until recently, we believe there were 2 separate species. These are mammalian. Yeah. So it says... Listen to this sentence. Until recently, we believed there were 2 separate species of what is broadly known as fairy. Tiny winged bipedal creatures that fall under broad genus Homo mimu or human mimic. These are mammalian Homo mimus or Homo mimus arthropodus, an insect-like creature, which includes Homo minimus dentata, or tooth fairies. It cannot include those. These 2 species show no known genetic similarities beyond their status or their stature and aesthetic. So then they cannot both be Homo mimus. I keep wanting to say Homo minimus because they're small. Homo minimus would work if it weren't for the wings. If I was naming these species, if I was given the choice, I would name this this genus Terra Homo, which would mean winged human. So the genus would be Homo Terra, and then the fairies would be called Homo Terra minimus, is how I would name them. Just my opinion. This one might not be, though. The regular ones would be. This one's a little bit bigger, so this one's like a Barbie doll size. So looking at it, if I were going to name it, looks like this one might have been made with frog parts. Looking at the arms and stuff. Yeah, I think this might be a frog reconstruction, except for the face, of course. Yeah. I guess that what I would do is name this after the discoverer. If I would call this one name this one after whoever discovered it. If I had who is Horst? Is Horst who discovered this? Okay, this case is very important. The specimen within were found in Boston, Massachusetts, while searching for Homo mimus dentata around 1862. Merlin was aware of some insect species of fairy had been introduced to the Americas. So this is one of the insect species. Okay, so if this is not the true fae, then it cannot be, it cannot be in Homo minimus. It has to be, or Homo mimus. Actually, Homo mimus would be a more fitting name for the insect clade. So we're going to keep Homo mimus for the arthropod ones, and then we're going to the tooth fairies and these ones, and then we're going to switch the true fairies to Terra Homo or Terra Homo mimus, something like that. All right, there's a few more I wanted to look at before we move on. I do want to make sure that I don't run this show over past noon, because I want to have a time to take a potty break and maybe grab something to eat before I go into Gardens Happen. And again, that's here if you don't know, and I'm going to be over there talking about gardens and bugs and all kinds of stuff with our wonderful host. And we have been in contact about this. It's going to be great, so come check it out. Let me see here. Let's look at this borrowers thing. All right, so this one has kind of mocha wings. These wings have also been bleached, and I don't know if that's stained or painted on these ones, but yeah, it's another fairy with wings and larva. Where's the larva at? I don't see any larva. Are these larvae down here in the... Are these the larva? Larva non-vulcurus is a species of wingless Homo mimus, which share much of the anatomical traits of their winged relatives. So this would be... So these ones have no wings. And the fairies have the wings. There's a lot of pictures of them all with wings up there. So these are just tiny humans then. Or tiny peoples. So Homo minimus would be great for these guys. Would they be an offshoot that lost their wings? Or a... Let's see, does it say they lost their wings down here? Borrowers. Okay. Do they have tails? The borrowers had tails, if I remember correctly, right? The prospect of caste systems within fairy hives fascinated him, and he wished to find examples in their own country. Okay. So, yeah. So here's the thing, too. If these lived in hives, so we find, like they talks about the burrows and things that these creatures are supposed to have. But those would leave traces, right? They'd be all over the place. Anyway, let's hear this gentleman go on his little thing about it, and then we'll probably move on with the show.
You will find many bizarre stories when searching for the validation of the metaphysical and supernatural in this world. If you have some experience with this, you should be able to easily categorize them as obvious hoaxes and true reports of events that really happened. But what I'm going to present here falls under the third category of stories that are very difficult to wrap your head around. In 2014, very strange pictures and videos started circulating on the internet showing bodies of mythical creatures known to us.
This will answer your questions too, GeoSam. Okay.
us only from fairy tales and old legends. In 2016, mainstream media got interested in these bizarre-looking entities, and the whole world started wondering what it is that we're dealing with here. It quickly turned out that these pictures are showing only a small fraction of a huge collection of artifacts coming from a basement of a house in the middle of London that belonged to a strange man called Thomas Maryland. Before we continue, I want to ask you to sponsor this channel so that I can show you more of these stories. You can donate by using PayPal, Cash App, bank, or cryptocurrency transfer, or join Patreon or Subscribestar. You can schedule a donation.
Always at least once a show, right? I was just commenting on your all's commentary. Honestly, that's what I paused for. I muted to take a drink because it so sounds. I always hate that. I try to cut it out. I said, if you want to subscribe to a channel that talks about fairies, then I'm your girl right here. Don't worry about this guy. Subscribe to Bree, and I will talk about fairies to your heart's content for as long as possible. So if you are into this, don't subscribe to this guy's channel. Subscribe to mine. And yeah, well, these are discovered in Hyrule. Need more mic, nerdy? Yeah, it's the fairies trying to stop me. They're all clicking stuff in here, trying to stop me from revealing their secrets.
Nation fund to chat with me or buy merchandise. All links in the video description. As always, your help is needed and much appreciated. Thank you. The story goes that Thomas was born in 1782 and was an introverted professor and later a lord who spent most of his life in the basement of a London house without having much contact with anyone. He became famous for collecting specimens of unknown animal and humanoid species not known to earthly science. Even though he wasn't leaving his house, it was assumed that he must have traveled extensively to find these artifacts. Although not a part of any scientific community, he was respected and highly regarded by the biggest names of his times. Eventually, he started showing his collection to the world, and the exposition was considered to be so shocking that he was accused of practicing dark magic and eventually fell out of favor with the scientific world.
So he was world famous, and there should be some record of him, right? You'd think.
Respected and ridiculed, he disappeared back into his basement and by the end of the century was presumed dead. That was until in 1942, a man who claimed to be Thomas and looking like him donated the very same house to a London orphanage under the condition that the basement was never to be unsealed by anyone. The man looked not older than 45 years old and claimed to be Thomas, yet he should have been at least 160 years old by then. It was the last...
Ooh, he was immortal too. Fairies are raiding the Hive.
In the 1960s, the orphanage shut down and the history of Thomas was forgotten. In 2006, when the building's foundations were inspected before planned demolition...
This world famous guy who discovered all these new species of hominids, yeah, he just was forgotten. Just forgotten, you know. Primatologists weren't interested in his exhibits. There was no further research. None of his discoveries were given to museums. Okay, I'm with you so far.
Evidently, behind two brick walls, the door to the basement was discovered. Inside, thousands of smaller and larger crates filled with specimens, artifacts, devices, paintings, and diaries were found. The reason this was a shocking discovery is that among the objects were bodies of goblins, elves, fairies, vampires, dragons, mermaids, and werewolves, never seen by anyone before. A trust was found so that the crates can be analyzed and described, and that was when a young man...
Wait a second. Never seen before contradicts what you said just a minute ago. Never seen before would imply... I mean, in my understanding of what the implication is anyway, would imply that they were... I mean, he said he was world famous and he traveled and toured with these things. Now you're telling me they were never seen before. Make up your mind, narrator.
Named Alex was hired. He is the one who showed this collection to the world a few years later. But this story is much more interesting, it would appear. It turned out that some of the skin cells from these creatures are more than 2,000 years old and were brought back to life from dormant state, but their DNA is unlike anything scientists have ever seen. Even more interestingly, Thomas's notes are filled with esoteric ideologies.
I like this guy right here. It looks like the... Oh, you can't see it because of the... Hold on. Just a second. Let me drop this down to show you this. This guy right here looks like Blade from Puppet Master. That's all. That's all I wanted to say.
Quantum mechanics, time travel, DNA science, and things that no one should have known about 2 centuries ago. His drawings depict bodies of what we today call gray aliens. In fact, many of these objects look as if they were taken straight from a Hollywood prop archive. Thomas also mentions a sentient artifact called...
Yeah, they kind of do, don't they?
The alabast. It is described as a foot-long horn made of glass-like substance making sounds similar to human voice. This object might have something to do with the long lifespan of the crazy professor, but as it appears, it was never found in the collection. But that's not the end of all the strangeness. I've been interested in it for a few years.
Ooh, a lost missing artifact too. Yeah.
Now, and it seems that the story behind these elves and fairies changed recently. I have to rely on my memory here, but I remember seeing these pictures for the first time, and there are some things that I need to tell you about. But first, let's think if all of this is actually true, as any skeptical researcher would do, and let's look for any inconsistencies that would allow us to discredit the whole thing as a hoax. After all, this is a weird story that feels like it is almost impossible to be real, and the first thing that made me question it is that Thomas Merlin was born in the north of England in a town called Hellingshire. Because I live in the north of England, I can tell you that there is no Hellingshire. It's obviously a fake name. The interesting thing is that additional biographical elements appeared recently online, and I don't remember Life of Thomas being described in such detail. But it could be just my bad memory. Another thing that I noticed is that when I read about this discovery years ago, it was reported that there were actually thousands of crates, but if you read the report now, it talks only about hundreds with thousands of objects in them. Also, a lot of new connections to famous people were made that
How would they keep thousands of crates in the basement? Was like a warehouse basement? I was thinking like, yeah, dozens maybe, but hundreds still seems kind of excessive.
Previously were not listed, as if someone was trying to validate this story. But the biggest change is what Thomas was doing throughout his life in the house, and that little detail is the reason why I'm making this video. When I read about this story years ago, it said that Thomas never left the house for almost 40 years, yet today we can read that Thomas was actually traveling around the world collecting these bodies. Why is that important? Because it feels like new elements were added to the story that would discredit it or make it look like a cheaply concocted hoax. This is a very common method used by government agencies, and if you want to learn how it works, read about the Roswell UFO crash and the weather balloon theory. It's always the same method
So guys, it's a psyop is what it is. It's a psyop that's telling us that these are fake. They're real, and then the psyop is that they're fake. Keep up.
An incredibly complex explanation is brushed off and replaced by a ridiculously naive and primitive debunking attempt and is quickly picked up and spread by media. It feels like this is one of these cases because if you look up anything on these London artifacts, you'll find plenty of articles dismissing and ridiculing the whole thing. But I remember reading about the exact number of items that allowed me to multiply 40 years of Thomas living in the basement and the number of objects that were found.
There's the mermaid.
I don't remember the exact numbers. I remember that it amounted to him working day and night creating an object every 5 days. Yet I can't find this information anymore for some reason. He would have had to work day and night for 40 years to produce just the specimens.
Right, but you never saw all the specimens, each different specimen, right? You're going off a memory of a article you read years ago when this stuff was first released, right? You're not, and this is recently that this is why this came back into my feed. I remember this being a joke, and people still use these images, right? But I remember this being a joke in like when I was doing moderating on Unexplained Mysteries forums. And these were just like a running joke that people would come in believing in these.
Not to mention all the drawings, paintings, descriptions, devices, and all other objects that were also found in the basement. So that theory makes absolutely no sense. Keep in mind, we're talking about 18th century technology and tools. Now, the interesting thing is that I remember clearly that he described in the note.
Are we though? Are we talking about 18th century tools?
His interdimensional travels and how he was collecting these artifacts in the extraterrestrial realms. This information is also nowhere to be found now. The main argument against this being a true story is that Alex, apparently an artist, created all these artifacts himself. But that doesn't explain how a 20-something kid is not only an artist, but also a sculptor, biologist, painter, designer, engineer, taxidermist.
The person who did this is not a biologist, and I just proved that because they did not classify their organisms correctly by any sort of biological classification system. They openly admitted that they were putting arthropods and a group of arthropods and a group of mammals in the same genus. No, this person does not know biology by any stretch of the imagination. I give them an A for effort, but I could really help them make this more realistic if they'd let me reclassify their organisms for them. I could even get Ben, student Dr. Ben, in on this because things like lycanthropy and vampirism, he could help you better categorize them as to fit with the mythology and what we know about it now, so you could actually build a realistic fable behind it that matches with some medical knowledge. Or yeah, let me do this with the bugs and stuff in the fairies classify the organisms. I think I would do a better job than Alex. But Alex is a great artist, but not a good biologist.
And a skilled craftsman who, despite his young age, in a fairly short period of time, was capable of creating hundreds of realistically looking animal bodies, skeletons, drawings, and devices.
Realistically looking is another stretch. And I don't know necessarily that the sculptor is the same person drawing them. I'm not saying that it's not. This person could have both drawing and sculpting skills. That would be amazing. I can draw pretty decent, and like I said, I do taxidermy too. I don't do taxidermy anywhere near this level. There's a guy who taxidermies just insects to look like real, like fairies and stuff. And he's open about that. This is taxidermy though. He doesn't try to sell it as real like this artist is doing here.
These bodies are too detailed and too small sometimes to be fake, especially that their faces show emotions, and in some cases you can observe visible rigor mortis.
Too small to be fake. Have you ever seen the grain of rice artist do paintings on grains of rice? No, it's not too small.
A stage in which limbs of the corpse stiffen under the influence of chemical changes in the muscles. Very difficult, if not impossible, to reproduce artificially. I've seen a lot of hoaxes, but if this story is not real, in my opinion, this has to be the biggest and most elaborate fakery in human history that must have involved huge teams of highly skilled...
No, it's just Fiji mermaid stuff. There's nothing... It's just regular taxidermy and artificial mummification methods.
People to pull it off. The question is also, why all the effort? Because despite the name Maryland Cryptid Museum, there is no actual museum open to public that could somehow justify the time, money, and energy required to create thousands of these artifacts visible in the pictures. It seems like there isn't anyone who would benefit from it. And I was able to confirm that, in fact, there was a boys' orphanage in London that...
Is that a smoking tool? Is this the carburetor? I think it's like a lab tube thing. This is a baby werewolf, right?
Shut down in the 60s. We also need to take into account another story that talks about a 6-inch alien body found in
Ada!
very similar to the ones discovered in the basement. That finding was so important that there was even a documentary made about it called
Ada
Fairies.
doesn't have a nose or
specimen in
teeth.
question was DNA tested, X-rayed, and CT scanned, and was proven to be in fact extraterrestrial. In that case,
No.
also a very similar primitive...
Did you hear what he just said? Ada was proven as a fact to be extraterrestrial. Ada is a fact, in fact, extraterrestrial. Scientifically. Where the heck do you get this information, dude?
Misinformation campaign was launched trying to explain that artifact to be a skeleton of a human. An adult 6-inch human. Yes.
No, it's not an adult 6-inch human. The skull is not fused. It's a fetus. It's a fetus with birth defects that didn't survive. Yeah, it was yeah, that's it. That's all. Whole story. Start to end. We did a whole thing on it. If you want to check it out, I will have it pop up here, like a link thing to it. So go check that out if you want to see Ada.
In one of my previous videos called Lies Under Your Feet, I talk about a map from 434 years ago that shows all of these creatures actually to exist. Watch that video if you want to learn more. Also, most of the viewers of this channel understand that there are other dimensions, and even FBI and CIA confirm their existence in their documents, and I did make a video about that too. We also need
that document didn't say anything about these types of fairy. That document said, where was it?
It's in their documents, and I did make a video.
That document's talking about machine elves, which are the things you see when you're tripping on DMT. We also did a stream on that. Also see link above. When you're watching this on CryptoCorner, I'll make sure I remember. But yeah, linked up there. And we talked about Alyoshanka earlier, and I'll link that one up there too. So yes, we're just rehashing a whole bunch of stuff that you're just linking together with this artist's work to help bolster your narrative. However, those are all fake too, or not what you're claiming they are.
That too. We also need to remember that psychonauts and people who come back from the spiritual world after near-death experiences confirm the existence of other realities that are inhabited by completely different organisms than we find.
But they would not leave physical remains in our world, right? Right? If they're psychonauts are seeing them in the spirit world, they wouldn't leave bodies behind.
On Earth. If these artifacts are real and the story surrounding them is true, the implications for our science are enormous. If we
That's
take all of
pretty
the
cool
above into
dinosaur
account
skull,
and mainstream
though.
media efforts
That
to
is
dismiss this
awesome.
seemingly unbelievable story, it is likely that Professor Thomas Theodore Marilyn actually knew a method of traveling between dimensions. If you would like to have a look at all of the pictures yourself,
Or that he's not a real person. That's probably the more likely.
go to the website alexcf.com and see for yourself what they contain.
alexcf.com.
Bring you more of these findings so
Sam,
that once and for all we
you're
can
still out
understand what
there.
the nature of our reality is. If you want to help me with this, please sponsor this channel by donating or by joining one of the subscription services. If you want to talk about this, schedule a chat with me or buy merchandise. All links in the video description. Thank you. Don't forget to subscribe and follow. Like this video
Subscribe and
share it
follow
with everyone
me,
you care.
not... He's
For
talking about my
merchandise, go to
channel, not
shop.d44.com.
his channel, but
Leave your email
his
address
channel's
at
434.
Visit the website of the artist and the musician I featured here. For more.
Yeah. The artist you featured here, that's no joke. But yes, this is the channel 434. But yeah. So that was our Cryptic Corner Fairy show today, talking about some pieces of art that people are still trying to convince us are real, even though they're obviously pieces of art, taxidermy art that's not badly done, that's well done. Yeah, he's a crypto bro. Yep, he wants to sell you some Dogecoin and all that good stuff. So that was Cryptic Corner. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. We will be back tomorrow morning live from the Hive for all of you watching this. And please tune in for that. And then on Monday, we'll bring you some more HiveScience. And Wednesday, you get some CreationWatch coming at you. Also, should be more fairy stuff, I believe. And then Friday, we wrap all the way back around to more Cryptic Corner for you. Thank you so much for joining in and sticking with us. And please remember to be kind, take care, and we'll see you next time. All right, so to those of you who are sticking around live from the Hive, as you know, this show is segmented. So this is just segment 1 coming to an end. We have plenty of show ahead. So we do take a little intermission break here, though. So stick around. The show will go on. All right, and I will see you guys over on CreationWatch. Stick around.
I get knocked down, but I get up again. You're never gonna keep me down. I get knocked down, but I get up again. You're never gonna keep me down. I get knocked down, but I get up again. You're never gonna keep me down. I get knocked down, but I get up again. You're never gonna keep me down. It's in the night of day. It's in the night of day.
He makes a whiskey drink, he makes a vodka drink, he makes a lager drink.
Hey, Matt Powell, remember us? Robert and me, remember the studio? This is where you ran away, remember? And you didn't only run away, you decided to cancel a show with Jackson Wheat that you had the day after that, and a few days after that, you posted that you would never go on an atheist channel ever again. We made that happen. We scared you. Didn't we, Robert? I mean, must have been.
Absolutely. You ran, and Matt, I still remember it was right before the kickoff of the show. You asked me and Peter, hey, are either one of you homos? Now, not only was that totally irrelevant, I remember asking you, do you know what a bear is? And the first thing you did was talk about what's in the zoo. And I told you what a bear was, and I still strongly suggest stop asking random, enormous, muscular men, are they homos? It may not work out well for you.
Nope, it might not. What also wouldn't work out well for you is, remember Bree, the one that you tried to mock in one of your videos? Bree isn't phased. In fact, Bree, and if you don't remember her, this is Bree. She wants to debate you on the science of trans. And trust me, Matt, she is going to demolish you. And so in the meantime,
Absolutely.
what you can do is look up what a beard is. Because I think we both know where you're coming from, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
If you want to debate Bree, you can come on our channel. If you want to debate Robert, because he's more than happy to debate you as well. And you still have your open invitation to come on our channel. So that's 3 shows where you're more than welcome to come and defend yourself, Matt Powell. We'll see you soon.
Come on.
All right. Hello, hello. Welcome to CreationWatch, my beauties and bees, and thank you so much for tuning in tonight. I love every one of you all for showing up. I want you to know that. And if you're not subscribed, please hit the little button below. We're really close to 1,000. I just need like 26 more, 27 more, something like that right at the moment. So we're getting really close there. I'm biting my fist about it, how close I am. So please, if you haven't hit the subscribe button, thank you. If you want to hit the thumbs up, if you want to share the video around, if you just want to comment, just to trigger the algorithm for me, just please, let's get it there. Let's make it happen, because I am excited about getting there. But that is neither here nor there for the topic today, because regardless of where we stand, we are talking about some New Age stuff today. So, for those who know, and those who don't, I used to be, when I was a teenager to my early 20s, really into studying. That's how you get what you get from me right now, like why I do CryptoCorner and stuff, and the research and all that stuff, and believing in it, and exploring it, doing paranormal investigations, and from the time that I was 16 to the time I was 24, the girl I was with was a practicing Wiccan, so it was pretty prominent in my life at the time, and so I know a bit about the New Age beliefs, and I did participate quite a bit in that. I don't know that I've ever really bought into it, to be frank. I tried really hard, but yeah. So yeah, crystals, like I'm seeing out here. Yes, I had crystals and Ouija board. I had a handmade Ouija board, actually. And it was handmade by me. If I were to do it today, I would have probably carved it, but it was just painted. Anyhow, so needless to say, I was really into the New Age scene. So I found this channel that it's called Doreen Virtue, and she's like this anti-New Age found Jesus lady. And she kind of looks like the transformed wife in a way, but I wanted to give her a chance to tell us about fairies and unicorns, or mermaids, and why they're not biblical, why they're the bad guys. So hang in here with me, and we're gonna.
That there is evil in the world.
Oh.
How humiliating.
All right, from the top. Let's go, Doreen.
To admit that you're wrong about something, and you know how humiliating that can be, humbling, which is always a good thing. Well, my name's Doreen Virtue, and I'm here to admit that I was wrong about a lot of things. And I'm not only admitting it to one person, I'm admitting it to the whole world. Before Jesus saved me, I was teaching about unbiblical things that were actually, I know now, I didn't know then, were spiritually dangerous. And unfortunately, some people still use my old products. Some people even sell my old products, even though I've asked them not to. There's bootlegs of my old
Yeah, I'm
products.
boosting her.
So I'm here with warnings about my old work. And today I want to warn you, and I'm not judging. I promise you, this is not judging. This is an apology for teaching deception, because I was deceived and I passed the deception along, and I'm so sorry. I want to talk to you today about fairies and unicorns and mermaids. And I know some of you will just turn this off and say, what is she talking about? But people in the New Age take this
fairy right there.
topic
Fairy,
very
fairies
seriously.
behind
In fact,
her.
I used to write about it.
See those fairies flying around behind her while she's talking about them?
I used to teach about it. I had videos about it. I even had courses about it. And so I've got to address this topic. I was saved in late 2017, and I don't think I've really addressed this topic properly until now. I'm taking advantage of the few hours that are not raining here in the Pacific Northwest. We've started to have the spring flowers, thankfully. And aren't the flowers beautiful? They're God's...
They freaking are. Look at those beautiful ferns she has right there. I'm going to fangirl over her plants anyway. Yeah, this is gorgeous.
Creation. And there's no doubt that God created all this beauty. But what...
I actually do doubt, because that's not what the evidence shows. And the evidence shows that it evolved over billions of years to bring us all this diverse beauty.
The problem is that I was into pantheism and idolatry of God's creation. And I was worshiping the creation instead of the creator. And
the creation is the creator. They're the same guy. Actually, the same woman. Her name's Gaia, but I'm not even a pagan, or not a pagan at all in that way. But yeah, if I were given the option to name like the noise and stuff that we see from the mycelial network, I'd call it like the fairy language or Elvish or something. If I was given that opportunity to name it, to name what that, you know how we see that when we look at the readouts from the mycelium, we can see that they're sending messages to each other. If I was given my option to name that, I would call it Elvish, just to be annoying to the fundies. I would call it Elvish, and I would yeah, and I would also claim that the pulse messages could be called fairies and all that good stuff. Absolutely, I'm here for it, but I think it's biological. I think it's physical. I think it's the same kind of synapses firing sort of direction we see in nature everywhere. Just I'm not saying it's synapses firing. I'm saying it's analogous. Yeah, let's see.
And we're going to talk about that. So fairies in the ancient times were considered to be kind of sinister beings. They were not the fluffy Tinkerbells that in recent times have been popularized and that I believed in. When I was a child, I thought I saw fairies. I was obsessed with a book that my mom gave me that had fairy tales and had pictures of fairies on the cover. And
that's how they get you. They indoctrinate you with pictures of fairies on the table, on the cover. They're like, ooh, how pretty they are. And then you get in there and you go in there and you come out looking like this. This is a warning. You're like wearing a little golden cross and yeah, wearing a jean jacket. That's what happens. I too have a jean jacket, so I'm not even judging her.
When I would go to places with a lot of nature like this, I would go looking for fairies. My husband and I even took people on so-called fairy walks or fairy hunts.
Actually, I did have someone going on a fairy walk on the table today. I was gonna kind of riff on that, but this woman showed up in my feed when I was looking at. Actually, she didn't show up in my feed. You know whose feed she showed up in? Dennis's. In Dennis's feed, she was like talking about counter New Age stuff, and I was like, "Hey, what the heck?" And I opened it up. Yeah, it's fancy chemistry. I know, PZ. It's all fancy chemistry. Every drip and drop of it. That's I like using these terms to kind of to annoy people. So, not to annoy you specifically, but more to annoy people who think that fairies are demons. To say, oh yeah, we can prove that fairies exist would be amazing, and then show them these little electrical spikes or whatever in the chemistry of the mycelial network, and be like, look, there they are, there's the fairies, and not have physical proof of them, just to annoy the people who have no proof of their God. I'm like, yeah. I'm like, oh, what do you believe in fairies? And I'm like, yeah, we can see them. Just if we named those spikes fairies, which I'm in favor of, but I digress. Or pixies. Pixies would be a good name for them too. Pixie spikes, something along those lines. I'm just coming up with my own terms to annoy people. You just ignore me.
We would look for fairies and we try and photograph them. So we were really deeply into the fairy mysticism, and also into unicorns. I was obsessed with unicorns.
Unicorns are in
Hawaii. I had one whole room that had wall-to-wall pictures of unicorns on it.
Unicorns are biblical. Yeah, she's not into fairies anymore, Peasy. She's going to tell us how evil they are.
When I had my horses, I would put unicorn horns on their heads, and I was just really embedded in that lore. With mermaids, same thing. I was obsessed with mermaids. I even, with my friends, we would put on mermaid tails, these silicone kind of bodysuits that had fins inside of them.
And maybe it's the JW Jesus, and she should just have a spike necklace. Do the JWs wear what do the JWs wear on their necklaces, Ryan? I don't even know. They can't have a cross. They think the cross is anti-Jesus.
And we would engage in pretty dangerous swimming activities, like holding
Astrology's all about trolls.
4 minutes underwater, swimming as close as we could to wildlife underwater, and going into caves. And
wouldn't it be funny if they called like the study of like geodes and stuff, like troll Fraggles, guys. Yeah, let's do it.
Just things that were physically dangerous, and now I know that they're spiritually dangerous. So let's just begin with why that is.
Spiritually dangerous.
This video is going to make some people mad.
Have you ever thought that fairies in the forest were dangerous to your spirit? Well, now we're going to learn all about it.
Would have gotten mad at this video 7 years ago, definitely. Jesus started to call me out of the New Age in 2015. I hadn't read the Bible, so I was trying to mix Christianity with paganism, unbeknownst to me, until I read the whole Bible. And in late 2017, I realized that I was a sinner, that I was breaking God's law and commandments, and even more than...
Depends on which part of the Bible you're following. Some of that earlier Old Testament stuff was pretty pagan-y and pretty witchy. Like they went to witches to get information. There were prophets that had vision quests and stuff. Come on now. There shall not be found among you anyone who burns his son or his daughter as an offering. Anyone who practices divination or tells fortunes or interprets omens, or a sorcerer or a charmer or a medium or a necromancer, or one who inquires of the dead. For whoever does these things is an abomination to the Lord. And that's in Deuteronomy 18:10 through 12. However, the prophets of the Lord get the free pass, and the Christ himself gets a free pass on this as well. He practices necromancy and all that good stuff.
And that I read in Deuteronomy 18:10 through 12, that because I was doing these sinful activities, I personally was a detestable abomination to God. And I didn't know that. I thought I was helping people because people would write me letters and tell me at my workshops that I was bringing them comfort and seemed to be giving them answers, seemed to be helping them.
We don't think you're abominable.
Until I read Deuteronomy 18, and I knew it was the truth. I just knew it. Before then, I thought the Bible was corrupted by Constantine and the Roman Catholic Church.
Yeah, don't let the Protestant narrative change your view on what you were doing with your life. It doesn't, and again, I'm not defending the Roman Catholic Church at all. I'm just saying that don't let the Protestant view of the Roman Catholic Church taint your understanding of the pagan origins to several of the concepts in the biblical narrative, including practice and pantheism and all this good stuff, or polytheism. Yeah. Anyway, go ahead.
Church, but I just because of my research and also just knowing the gospel is true, I came to know that the Bible is God-breathed, and God has had his hand on the translations. And the Roman Catholic Church and Constantine were way after, historically in time and dates, after the biblical canon, the books of the Bible were selected. So all those myths I believed in the New Age were false. I'm so sorry that I did pass them along. The Bible is the truth.
How did you decide they were false? I bet you're like a KJV only kind of gal, aren't you? Let me look here, because we had your channel up, Doreen. Let's see. We're gonna search KJV. KJV only. Yeah. That's kind of what I expected. All right, there we go. Continue on, Doreen.
Gave me all the answers I was seeking. And Jesus finally gave...
Literally picking the absolute worst translation of the Bible, by the way. Yeah, no one told Abraham or Jephthah that. To be fair, the rule came after Abraham, but Jephthah has no excuse. What about Paul, though? Isn't Paul like basically a divining, like doing necromancy to talk to Jesus? Wasn't that necromancy?
Gave me the peace that I was looking for my whole life. Because that's really what it's about, is that desire for peace, that desire for secret hidden wisdom. A lot of people are very suspicious of, quote, organized religion. They've been lied to. They see hypocrites in the church. And that's because the church is filled with sinful people. We're all sinners. That took me...
My med alarm went off, so I'm going to let her talk, but I'm going to mute myself. Don't let me go on again with myself muted.
A long time to understand, because I was raised that we were made in the image and likeness of God, which does say Genesis 1:26, but I skipped over in my childhood upbringing Genesis 3, which is real, it's historical, where the devil lied to Eve, our ancestor, and told her that if she would disobey God, that she would be given secret wisdom. She'd be like God. She'd be, she'd get all the power. And isn't that what a lot of what we've been engaged in New Age is all about, is trying to get the power and the wisdom and to be like...
When I was in the New Age movement, it was never about power. That was never... I mean, maybe it was for you in the circle you ran in. I'm not saying it was, but it was actually doing things for power and control were like frowned upon in the circles I ran with. You couldn't be like, oh... I want to do a spell to get a promotion at work or something like that. You wouldn't do that, but you could do a spell that saying, oh, there's this woman at work who's really struggling and she could and she could use a promotion. Let's do a spell for her and do that. Or your coven or your group or whatever you called yourselves. They could decide to do a spell for you, but you don't bring that to the table. You don't bring that forward. You don't say, here, I want to do a spell for my personal struggles. That was never the way that it was practiced in the groups that I ran with. Not saying that that's all groups, but it was very taboo to do spells for yourself for your own personal gain. You could do the closest you could get to doing something for your own personal gain to be like, hey, I want I want to do a spell to make sure that my kids have, you know, a roof over their head and food in their stomachs or something like that, and that could be, you know, beneficial. I mean, something like that could backfire, of course, too, in the lore itself, depending on how the spell was put together. Anyhow, that could be dangerous, just doing a spell that close to home for yourself, because it could directly impact you or come back on you. That was the rules that we had in the New Age movement. Now, I don't believe in any of that now. I don't believe karma is a thing that actually exists. I think that karma is a thing that can happen just by happenstance. I don't think it's actually the universe getting back at somebody, but like the Andrew Tate and Greta Thunberg thing, how that backfired on him. That's karma, but it's just happenstance that it happened. Back when I was a New Agey person, I would have thought that was like a real universe intervention. But I've grown since then as a person, and have a better understanding of the way all the science works. So, yeah.
Like little gods or goddesses. So anyway, I skipped over that in my upbringing, and I just hung on to that we were made in the image and likeness of God, and we are, but we fell is the thing. We fell along with Adam and Eve, and so we were born in sin. We were...
Oh yeah, Satanism has that. Well, like theistic Satanism, right? But like the regular Satanism, like what R and Ra and Emma Thorne are, that's just a atheist activist group, basically. I don't think they have any spells and rituals that they actually do, because they don't believe in the supernatural.
Not part of God's children at that point. So now that I've had a few years in the Bible, I've gone to seminary. I've got a master's degree now in biblical and theological studies. I was given highest honors in terms of getting A's and 1B in my classes.
Biblical studies. Interesting. Okay. And all A's and 1B. Cool. When I was in school, some years I would squeak by with a like a C+ average, and some years I would get like an A average. So it depended on what year it was for me when I was in school, but I'm glad you did well.
So I really, really have dug into the Bible and have done a lot of praying about this. So with this perspective, I believe that fairies and unicorns and mermaids are two things. I believe that they are imagination, and that they are demons, and it's two different things. So let's start with imagination. So
actually, what I will say is that that there are two things: imagination or personification of natural things that are happening. That's what they are. They're imagination or personification of natural forces in the universe. So let's see which pans out more when we go through this.
A lot of people who get into the New Age because they are in search of healing. They have been abused, they've been abandoned, they've been betrayed. A lot of people in the New Age, and I was one of them, were traumatized, even had PTSD or secondary PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, because of all this. And so people get into the New Age because they want mental healing, they want emotional healing, and they want physical healing. And then there's the desire to control.
Well, and there are things that are done in the New Age community, more accepted, that are like doing like meditation's, a good practice for keeping your brain healthy and everything. Doing meditations, and there's different exercises that different doctors have taught me through the years. So that always thought, wow, this is just what we used to do when we'd sit in our circles and meditate to try to transcend into the astral planes and all that crap. This is the same thing we did, the same feelings. Probably the same feelings that I never went to church, but probably the same feelings that people have when they're in church and they're doing their, that thing. So I started to recognize the correlation between that. And then it was like, okay.
control and predict your future. And the New Age seems to offer that. And in fact, some people do seem to get healings. And so it's very addictive. You start to get very addicted to the methods of New Age, the processes of New Age. And
you get addicted to doing meditation and focusing on issues that you're dealing with and what results that you want, and being focused on solving your problems and things like that. I think that's where you get a lot of when it comes to spell casting. The same thing when it comes to prayer too. That's where you get a lot of your confirmation bias, because when you're praying for something, you're focusing on solutions that might come along to help you with it. You're focusing on finding those, like in your real world. You prayed for it, now you're looking for it to come. And when something does come, you draw the link, you draw the correlation link that would have happened or may have happened whether or not you prayed or not. It may have been the same thing.
with the fairies and the unicorns and the mermaids.
Okay, John, feel
they
better.
offer people who, this is what happened to me, who are traumatized.
You gonna put me on the big screen in there?
They offer a path of dissociation. Dissociation is a psychological term that means you kind of go.
Is it dissociation? I thought it was disassociation. Maybe I'm wrong though. Maybe I've been saying it wrong. Dissociation. Or okay, differences. So they're both words, but yeah, they're both the same word. So she's not wrong, and neither was I. They're the same. They're the same word, but different. Disassociation strictly applies to psychology, dissociation strictly applies to psychology, and disassociation can apply to anything. I'm with you. Okay, sorry, I didn't mean to come across like I was telling you were wrong.
Go into your own little bubble world. You escape reality in your mind, and even in your consciousness and your awareness, you're in this kind of magical land where there's no evil, there's no bad things. It's just a happy, happy place.
Right, you're in this magical place where as long as you have given yourself over to this magical creature that is 3 people at one time and all this, as long as you give yourself over to him in your magical land, you are just honky-dory tiptoeing through the tulips.
Bubble world, I used to call it. And so fairies and unicorns and mermaids are avenues that people take to escape. And
Jesus's.
So then you start...
And angels and the ancient Semitic gods, all those things, all those two. And talking snakes.
Start to populate your imaginary world with imaginary friends, imaginary beings. And that includes the fae, the fairies, the unicorns, and the mermaids. Now, I want to just say that there is a possibility that unicorns did walk on this earth. There's some historical records of people talking about unicorns, including in the King James version of the Bible. The word unicorn is there. Now, people argue that that's really an antelope or a rhinoceros or some other being. Could be. Nobody knows. I mean, just nobody knows. It's other people who talked about unicorns as being real. But that does not mean that we get to idolize them. That's the thing. In addition...
Idolizing them is like putting pictures of unicorns and stuff up. If you have unicorn stuff, I don't know if I have any unicorn stuff right now. I don't think I do. I'm a unicorn. Oh, hold on, I gotta do that sexy pose like this. I'm a unicorn. There you go. That's what you get for today. Yeah, so maybe I need to get, I'm gonna get unicorn headphones with a unicorn horn, or just maybe one that snaps onto it, and then I can piss this lady off. Sorry, Doreen.
Dissociation, where you go into a trance, and a lot of people will go in this bubble world, and it opens you up to demonic influences. That's what happened to me. You'll be in this kind of trance-like.
They're unicorns, fairies, and mermaids. They're all imaginary. Demons. Now, demons are real. Demons are a thing that exists, Doreen.
Meditative state where you feel so blissful, you feel so happy, no negativity, which is the top commandment of the New Age, because the secret, the law of attraction teaches that if you think negative, you attract negative. That's hogwash, by the way. I mean, there's some credibility to you don't want to dwell on negative things.
Yeah, well, so again, it's the same thing like I said with the prayer spell casting. When you do when it's negative, it works just the same. You think, I've flipped this switch to allow negative things to happen, and you start taking notice of all the crap that's happening, all the bad. I had a bad day the other morning. Spilled my coffee, forgot my badge at work, got a nasty email when I got in, logged into work. I couldn't wear the outfit I wanted that morning. Ian, my son, was parked in the driveway behind me, so I had to move his car to get out of the driveway. Everything just and I was just thinking that all this negative stuff's piling up, and it just puts it in your mind, and that happens. You can do that. You can draw correlation through all those things, but it doesn't mean it's real.
But I'm here to attest that in my years of being obsessed with fairies and mermaids and unicorns, I was in a trance-like dissociative bubble world, and I was not dealing with reality. I was not dealing with my relationships with my sons, which I totally regret. I was not dealing with my other relationships. I was focused on this kind of fantasy world that I was in. And
that seems more like a you problem, because there's people that disown their kids because they follow your religion, right? That just cut their kids completely out of their life for simple things like, my kid's gay, my kid's not Christian. That's a thing that happens. I know a lot of people who've been shunned. I mean, in this community especially, I know dozens of people who have been shunned by their Christian community, their Christian family, because they didn't adhere to their parents' beliefs. So you making it out like being a New Age person, which every New Age person I've known, not everyone, but like most of the New Age people I know, I shouldn't overstate it. Most of the New Age people I know are not part of a New Age family. They don't have necessarily New Age kids or New Age parents or even spouses and things like that. They're usually like the lone practitioner from their family, or sometimes there's a couple, but it's usually not a whole multi-generational thing. So they're not people who don't accept family because they're of their beliefs. They don't shun people because of their beliefs for the most part. Not that I know of. I mean, obviously there's exceptions to everything, but I don't know of anybody being shunned by a New Age parent, right? Or disowned by a New Age child. I don't think that that's something that's happening.
And I was not dealing with my finances, with my health, taking care of myself. I wasn't dealing with, and most of all, I wasn't focused on Jesus, the real Jesus. I was focused on this imaginary Jesus.
Why does Jesus come up on? Why does he matter at all?
Of the New Age, called the Ascended Master Jesus, or the Christ Consciousness, who we made up that God, that Jesus, in our own image in the New Age. We imagined what we believed love would mean, and in our imagination in the New Age, that Ascended Master Jesus was like a genie who would answer wishes or answer prayers, grant wishes, and then.
I never associated with an Ascended Master Jesus. That was never a thing in my New Age community.
People would get mad at him if he didn't seem to answer all your prayers, and people would walk away from him. And it's just insane, because that was not the real Jesus. The real Jesus is not a genie. He's not Santa Claus. He's not a wish granter. He's God, our 3-in-1 Holy Trinity, Father.
Prove it. That's a bold fucking claim. Where is the evidence? Where is this? He's not a genie. He's God. Where is the proof of that? He was a dude, maybe. He was a guy. I'm not necessarily saying I'm a mythicist, but where's the proof that he was God?
Son and Holy Spirit. Co-equal, co-eternal. Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Jesus is God. When we look at the Bible in John 1, in Colossians 1, it shows that Jesus was there in the creation, in the beginning, and God the Father created through Jesus. And I'll put up on the screen here the verses that point that out. And so I wasn't following Jesus. I thought I was. This was me trying to blend my own brand of Christianity with paganism. Because if you'd called me a pagan back then, I would say, no.
Because there's 5,000 denominations of Christianity that all have different interpretations of different parts of the Bible. Just because you think your particular flavor of evangelicism, is that right? Evangelicism or schism? Anyway, just because you think your particular flavor is the best flavor does not in any way discredit or disprove any of the other people who do see Jesus in a different light than you, including if they see him as a wise teacher, if they see him as a mythological figure, if they see him as a prophet of the Lord, if they see him as a incarnation of God, whatever their ideas are, they're all valid as far as a interpretation of what we know about the character from the current writings. So, yeah, yours isn't the one true. You have no evidence to say that yours is the one true.
No, I'm a Christian. I'm an open-minded Christian, I called myself. I'm so sorry. I wasn't a Christian. I thought I was. So we also believed that Jesus was all-inclusive, kind of this woke Jesus that said, well, do whatever you want as long as you
woke
stay positive
Jesus.
and happy. That's not the real Jesus at all. When I finally read the eyewitness accompanying accounts of Jesus, and I really dug into it in the Gospels of Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. And yes, in seminary we went into the biblical languages. So
emotions are not proof.
And there are no lost books.
Point,
that's another
Dr.
myth.
Mordecai.
Those so-called lost books, the Gospel of Thomas, Gospel of Mary Magdalene, those were written about 200 years after Jesus walked on the earth. And if you actually read them, you'll see that they're not loving. They're not.
Yeah. So the real, if Jesus is real, I like to point out what God said here, and that he put himself there. He wrote himself into his story. He's like, I'm gonna write my own Mary Sue character that comes in and saves everybody. And he wrote his own character into the story, and was like, yep, this is the coolest.
Some utopian contradiction of the Bible. I also was into A Course in Miracles for 20 years, in which this psychiatrist named Helen Schuckman said that she was channeling Jesus, and he was correcting what he really meant in the Bible. And it's the opposite of the Bible. It's horrible. It leads you down a dark path. It never gives you peace. It just
you
tries
can't
to
channel my
your mind
Jesus
in dangerous ways. So stay away from A Course in Miracles. In fact, I'll put a link in the description below of why I threw away A Course in Miracles and all of my course books. So anyway, my point is that I was deep into metaphysics and kind of pseudo-Christianity, and in that world, that backdrop, fairies and unicorns and mermaids seem to fit. I know they don't. There's no mention in the Bible of fairies, and so that's the second point. First point is imagination, which includes dissociation, going into your bubble world.
Did she say? I bet she said there's no reference to fairies, unicorns, or mermaids, and she had to cut it because there is reference to unicorns. She even already said that about the KJV.
Second point is demons. And I know that in the New Age there's no belief in demons. The first time I talked about the Ascended Masters being demons, people freaked out and they said, oh, she's fear-based.
There were definitely demons. But the way that the New Age people that I ran with, again, I can't speak for her personal experience, the people I was interacting with, demons was just another name for spirits. So all spirits were demons, but they recognized that the term had been applied to towards the malevolent spirits, the ones that were up to no good. That was the way that we understood it when I was practicing with the New Age team. And we were like a paranormal investigator team too, so we'd go and look for demons and ghosts and all that good stuff.
Look, do I look afraid? I'm not afraid, because Jesus is our conqueror. Jesus is our rock, our fortress. But I am aware that there is evil in the world, and I think you have to acknowledge that. I mean, there's elites who are doing horrible things to people and to our environment, and they're evil. They're lying to us through the media. I mean, I think you know that. So there is evil, and the evil, the Bible says, comes from behind them through the devil and his fallen.
Let's see what we have here. How you have fallen from heaven, O star of the morning, son of dawn. You have been cut down to the earth. You who have weakened the nations, but you said in your heart, I will ascend to heaven. I will raise my throne above the stars of God, and I will sit on the mount of the assembly. In the recesses of the north, I will ascend above the heights of the clouds. I will make myself like the Most High. Nevertheless, you will be thrust down to Sheol, to the recesses of the pit. That's a sexy ass verse right there.
Fallen angels. The devil
She's
was
using
originally an angel. He was very
the
prideful.
New American
he was trying
Standard
to compete
Bible.
with God. He was very beautiful, the Bible says, and because of his pride,
yeah,
he
he
was
sounds
kicked out of
hot.
heaven. He fell, and he took a third of the angels with him.
It's like, punish me, Daddy. The red dragon. Then another sign appeared in the heavens, and behold, a great red dragon, having 7 heads and 10 horns. And on his heads were 7 diadems, and his tail swept away a third of the stars of the heaven and threw them to the earth. And the dragon stood before the woman who was about to give birth, so that when she gave birth, he might devour her child. So, like, this dragon, right? He's huge because he's swiping his tail through the stars. But if the stars fell to the earth, since stars are huge, I mean, even the smallest stars are like generally several times bigger than our planet. If all the stars fell to the earth, there wouldn't be much earth left, because one star would just be enough. Or just one star. The sun's going to get there first. It's the closest. It's going to get there first, and there's not going to be any earth left after that hits the earth. So I don't know how other multiple stars are going to do that. Yeah.
Those are the fallen angels. And
It's almost like they didn't understand what cosmology was.
God created hell for those fallen angels and the devil. And the people who go to hell are the people following the devil and the fallen angels. They go to hell with him. And unless we're in Christ, that's where we're all going, because we've all sinned against God. Every single one.
Is there room in Christ for all of us, though? Is there? I don't think there's enough room for everybody.
Sinner. Sometimes people say, what about the innocent person who's never heard about Jesus? Well, if he's truly innocent, he's going straight to heaven. But there's no one who's truly innocent. And God has written his law on our hearts. He's also shown us that he's here through nature. In Psalm 19, verses 1-4, the heavens declare the glory of God. The skies proclaim the work of his hands.
Don't start with the preaching. I want to hear more about the fairies. Come on.
Pour forth speech. Night after night they reveal knowledge. They have no speech. They use no words. No sound is heard from them, yet their voice goes out into all the earth, their words to the ends of the world. In other words, everyone in every nation and every culture can see evidence of God through flowers like these, through the heavens, through the skies, through the birds, through the trees.
That's not what I see when I look at the flowers, though. That's not what I see. Just because that's what you see doesn't mean that's what I'm going to see when I look at the flowers.
It's a creator behind all of this, and that's God. And what's more, when we get involved with these fairies and we go into these trance-like states, the demons take advantage of that. When there's nobody home, they go in there and they try to pretend that they are the voice of God or the Holy Spirit or even Jesus. They try to pretend that they are the voice of your higher self. They try to pretend that they are the voice of a deceased loved one or an angel. They might even just say, I'm the voice of a fairy. And we have to be so careful, because they'll lead us away from God. The Apostle John, who spent more time with Jesus,
again, you're just believing in the demons on faith that they exist, but you're just denying the fairies on evidence. It's kind of weird. It's kind of a double standard, in my opinion.
Recorded in the Bible than anyone else, wrote in 1 John 4 that we've got to test the spirits. Just because you hear a voice, we can't believe automatically that it's telling us the truth. We have to test it. And how do we test it? To see if it proclaims and confesses Jesus biblically. Jesus came to earth fully God and fully man. And he was born of a virgin. He was on this earth for about 3 years, and he taught and showed miracles and proclaimed his divinity and allowed people to worship him. And then he was crucified as prophesied.
Okay, we get this. We know about Jesus. I'm here to hear what you have to say about fairies.
And Jesus was killed as prophesied, and he was buried, and 3 days later, he was raised from the dead. And hundreds of people saw him. He ate with them. He wasn't just a spirit. He sat down with them. He talked to me, which means change your mind. And I give my life to Jesus as my triune God. We're only to worship God the Father and the Holy Spirit, which is one God, 3 in 1, co-equal, co-eternal. God is the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, and you shall not serve them. And so that's what I was doing. I had dozens and dozens of fairy statues, I had mermaid statues. Jesus, when Jesus made it very clear, John 14:6, I am the truth, the way, and about follow your bliss, do whatever makes you happy. Pursuing happiness and hedonism and pleasure.
Yes.
That's
not hedonism. Just pursue happiness. That's fine. Yeah. I think I'm about finished up with Doreen. We might visit her again because she's got some other stuff here that I was going to poke into. But since I want to make sure that I'm in time for my Garden Channel interview thing, I definitely don't want to overlap into this. And I got a couple of topics. Like I said, I had something new coming up. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap up Creation Watch here. If you guys liked me covering Doreen here, definitely consider. Well, let's show you her channel real quick and the other stuff that she just has as far as videos and topics and things, so you guys can decide. Yeah, she does UFO invasions. She does false revival. Are we in end times? Near-death experiences. Look at this. Harry Potter is not for Christians. Todd White said what? False teachers, false healing. Why I stopped praying to the Mother Mary. Samuel or demons. So we're going to have lots of demon stuff. New Age hamster wheel. She's got a lot of stuff to tackle in the New Age. She's got like New Age and Christianity cannot blend. Bethel New Age spirit animals. Yeah, that's actually am interested in the spirit animal thing. I probably should have done that, but I was focusing on fairies. So if I come back here, aliens or demons. Oh my gosh, there's a lot to explore here. Why Christians should avoid trunk or treat in Halloween. Spiritual dangers of Led Zeppelin. Woo! Oh my goodness. Yeah. At least she's anti-Joel Osteen. I can be on the same page with her there. Christian hypnosis. What happens when we die? Yeah, so she's got a lot of this anti-New Age, how to witness to a New Ager, spiritual dangers of yoga, that kind of stuff. But she also gets into a little bit of the stuff that we dig into too. So it should be interesting. We are all related to Noah. Anyway, so yeah, this is Doreen Virtue, and she does YouTube and anti New Age stuff. So we will revisit this lady. Yeah, as Owen would call her, this nutter butter lady, at a later point. Thank you for joining me in ConservaPedia. Oh my gosh, it's been forever since this segment's been called ConservaPedia. Thank you for joining me in Creation Watch today. I need to do another ConservaPedia. I just did one with Emma, though, not that long ago. Soon. We'll do one soon. I like to try to do one quarterly, so that will be in the future, but it will probably not be in the next couple of episodes. I have some stuff lined up. I have ConservaPedia backed up on people to cover. Yeah. Anyway, we are going to move into the last segment here. So, for everybody watching this on Creation Watch on Wednesday, don't forget to come in on Friday and watch CryptoCorner. Don't forget to tune in for Live from the Hive on Saturday, because we will definitely be diving into that. If you agree with Doreen and disagree with me, you can comment down below and disagree. You can thumbs down or thumbs up the video, and tell me. If you thumbs down it, just tell me why. Tell me what you think I'm saying is wrong. I see a lot of people will thumbs down and not leave any kind of comment or anything. I want your criticisms. If you think that I'm doing something wrong, or that I'm misinforming about anything, tell me, because I want to know. I want to know if I'm doing something wrong. Let me know. All right. So, for my Creation Watch crew, please remember to be kind, take care, and we'll see you next time. Oh, ow. I punched the desk. After I just complained on Twitter that I smashed my boob last night and it's still sore. did not anticipate the pain that these suckers would have to go through as they're developing. All right, so thank you for sticking around, my Live from the Hive audience. I will be wrapping things up here with some. I actually have strange science and eco news for you today. So that's what I said. I had this one added on here. Anyway, I will see you over there. All right. Hello, and thank you for sticking with me. We are live from the Hive this morning, and welcome to our little Hive Science section, which we actually have 2 topics on the board today. So stick around, and we'll get through these last little sections, and then I will be heading on over to Gardens Happen, which I dropped the link in the side chat here for you. So that's where I'm going to be here at 12:30 Central, 1:30 Eastern. But definitely want to jump in and get us some little bit of Hive Science. So first thing up on the docket today is going to be a little bit of strange science. This is very strange indeed. Remarkable, as the headlines describe it. Remarkable fossil features an insect trapped in amber stuck to a dinosaur jaw. All right, this picture's not the best, but I have another document we're going to look at in a minute, but we're going to go ahead and read this section here because this is just a nice little short and sweet report on it. Science has a post about a special fossil insect. The remarkable fossil consists of a sap-sucking aphid trapped in amber and stuck to the jawbone of a duck-billed dinosaur. It was discovered in 2010 in Dinosaur Provincial Park in Alberta, Canada. All the details are in a paper published in the Journal of Science. The remarkable 2-for-1 fossil would have been preserved in an incredibly unlikely chain of events. The researchers write today in scientific reports that the paleontologists believe that after the Prosaurolophus hadrosaur died, and the flesh had decayed off its jawbone, it washed into a river. There, a blob of sticky resin from either a redwood or an Araucarian conifer tree also fell. The blob contained an unlucky aphid washed up against the bone and was pressed against it by the flow of water, the scientists argue. It was then covered in sediment for tens of millions of years, during which time the resin hardened into amber. The find, the first of its kind in North America, carries a cargo of secrets about the dinosaur's environment. For example, the plant and insect traces inside confirm what many paleontologists already hypothesized, that some hadrosaurs, including the 9-meter-long Parasaurolophus, fed on conifers near the coastal floodplains. All right, we got better pictures of this, though, so I'm going to pull that up here. This is the actual paper, scientific report. Hadrosaurian dinosaurs were abundant in the late Cretaceous in North America, but their habitat remains poorly understood. Cretaceous amber is also relatively abundant, yet it is seldom found in a direct stratigraphic association with dinosaur remains. Here we describe an unusually large amber specimen attached to a Parasaurolophus jaw, which reveals details of the contemporaneousness Paleoforest and Edemofauna, Fourier transformed infrared spectrography and stable isotope composition, H and C, suggests the amber formed from the resin exuded by, I'm going to try this word, cupressaceous conifers occupying coastal plains. An aphid within the amber belongs to Creationist, a Cretaceous family, suggests to bark feed on conifers. Distinct tooth row impressions on the amber match the hadrosaur's alveolar bone ridge, providing some insight into the tectonic process that brought the remains together. Okay, so let's look at the images though, because this is what I came here for. We're like the figures. All right, so you got this section here, which is, here's the jawbone. This is the jawbone right here, and then you got a section right there with, it's an amber, right? Like stuck to it. You can see how it is stuck on there right there, and you look in here. Zoom in right there. Zooms in and rotates it a little bit so we can see even closer. Zoom in right there. A little closer, baby. A little bit closer, baby. Right there. Here we go. Getting a little bit closer. A little bit closer. Yeah. And there's other figures. And then we get right in here where you can see the bug itself. Check that out. Pretty wicked, huh? Yep. All right, so that was a remarkable fossil feature on Strange Science today. Trapped in amber, we have a aphid on a hadrosaur. An aphid on a hadrosaur bone. All right. Thank you for popping in for that one. And next up on the list from IFL Science, we have some eco news. This is not good news for anybody involved here. For all humankind, this is bad news. Plastic rocks found on a remote volcanic island are a terrifying discovery. At first, scientists couldn't identify the strange bluish-green rocks, so they ran a chemical test on them, and oh. Plastic rocks have been found on a remote volcanic island off of Brazil's Brazilian coast in what geologists have described as a new and terrifying development. They add that the discovery is yet another sign of how human activity is drastically changing the nature of the world and even Earth's geology. Just a second, I'll clear my throat. Sorry about that. Dubbed plastioglomerates, the rocks are a mixture of sedimentary granules and other debris that have been fused together by plastic melted from volcanic activity. At first, reported by Reuters, geologists from the Federal University of Paraná recently made the discovery on Trinidad Island, a green turtle refuge with no permanent human settlements, found in the Atlantic, 1,140 kilometers or 708 miles from Brazil's southeastern state of Espírito Santo. The scientists couldn't initially identify the strange bluish-green rocks, so they ran a number of chemical tests on the sample. This revealed that they are made of both rocky sediment and plastic, most likely from fishing nets, a major contributor to plastic pollution in the world's oceans. This is a new and terrifying at the same time because pollution has reached geology. Fernanda Alvear Santos, a geologist at the Federal University of Paraná, okay, told the news agency. We identified the pollution mainly comes from fishing nets, which is very common debris in the Trinidad Island beaches. The nets are dragged by marine currents and accumulate on the beach. When the temperature rises, the plastic melts and becomes embedded in with the beach's natural materials, Santos added. This isn't the first time plastic-glomerates have been unearthed. Initially documented in 2014, it has now been seen in locations across the Earth's surface. However, this recent discovery on Trinidad Island is particularly shocking as it's relatively remote and home to a diverse selection of rare wildlife. The island serves as one of the main nesting sites for green sea turtles in Brazil and has been known to harbor nurseries of humpback whales. No humans live on the island. There's just a very small research station controlled by the Brazilian Navy. Plastioglomerates are a grim reflection of a wider problem of plastic pollution. According to a report released earlier this month, there are now more than 170 trillion pieces floating in the world's oceans. When discussing how human activity is impacting the planet, scientists sometimes use the term Anthropocene, a proposed geological epoch that's defined by the impact of humans on Earth's geology and ecosystem. Not everyone agrees. We have entered this epoch since geological time usually works in a gigantic time scale, not mere centuries. However, this new discovery shows human-made materials are now having a literal impact on Earth's geology. Even long after humans are gone, traces of our activity will be left in the planet's geological records indefinitely. And we talk so much about the Anthropocene, and this is it, said Santos. So what do y'all think of that? That's a pretty shocking development. This is what they look like. I don't know if we could zoom in on this or not, but yeah, that's one of these rocks. You can see the blue binding it together, mixed in with the sediment. Yeah, on a volcanic island. Anyway, that is all I have for science news today. And that was we had the fossil with the insect and the hadrosaur jawbone, the aphid and the hadrosaur jawbone, and then we had the plastic rocks. So thank you for sticking around for this last little segment. Appreciate each and every one of you for hanging in here with me and checking out the show, and I hope you all have a pleasant remainder of your day. If you're interested, I'll be over at Gardens Happen here in approximately 35-ish minutes. So pop over there and see what we're up to. It'll be a fun time. And please remember also to be kind and take care, because that's the most important thing we can do. Love from the Hive, and have a lovely day.
Then the Lord said to Moses, "Stretch out your hand over the land of Egypt for the locusts, so that they may come into the land of Egypt and eat every plant in the land, all that the hail has left." So Moses stretched out his staff over the land of Egypt, and the Lord brought up an east wind upon the land all that day and all that night. When it was morning, the east wind had brought up the locusts. The locusts came up all over the land of Egypt and settled on the whole country of Egypt. Such a dense swarm of locusts as had never been seen before, nor ever will be seen again. They covered the face of the whole land, so that the land was darkened, and they ate all the plants in the land, and all the fruit of the trees that the hail had left. Not a green thing remained, neither tree nor plant of the field throughout the whole land of Egypt. Then Pharaoh hastily called upon Moses and Aaron and said, "I have sinned against the Lord your God and against you. Now, therefore, forgive my sin, please, only this once, and plead with the Lord your God only to remove this death from me." So he went out from Pharaoh and pleaded with the Lord, and the Lord turned the wind into a very strong west wind, which lifted the rocks and drove them into the Red Sea. Not a single locust was left in the country of Egypt. But the Lord hardened Pharaoh's heart, and he did not let the people of Israel go.